Hey, Mad Men fans, it's me, and I'm a day late, but not a dollar short. Well, I am a bunch of dollar shorts, but that's not your business. Um, I had a friend of mine who came out from Atlanta, and we were hanging out all weekend, and she just left. And I figured, what better time to come and talk about the awesomeness that was Mad Men last night, or Sunday night. Um, Yeah, so it was Sunday. It's Tuesday morning, so it might be a little foggy on some details, but overall, I thought it was a really, really good episode. I was really into it, even though, well, we'll get into that. First off, we just have to realize that there's only three more episodes left, and they're kind of wrapping it up, the show up, and it feels like that. They're kind of tying up loose ends, or I don't know. In a weird way, it just feels like they're, yeah, just kind of tying up loose ends and trying to wrap everybody's arcs in a nice little bow. That's how I felt with the whole Jones situation. But I actually wanted to talk about Don first because Don's, sort of challenge this week was, I think, the tone of the whole episode. Think about the future. Sterling gave him an assignment to, write a speech about, all the years that the agency has been in business and what they've accomplished and what the future of the company is going to be, what the future is. And we know that Don is making strides to become a better person, a better man. We see it, which is good. Um, he is divorced from Megan. He's selling his condo. Just a lot of things are changing for him. His kids are getting older. So yeah, it's going to be like a new life for Don Draper, and so that was definitely, I guess, a metaphor for his life. Like, what's going to be the future of Don Draper? Um, so Don is going around asking everybody what they think the future of the company is. Ted Chaw was there, and that's why I say tying up loose ends, because we haven't seen Ted Chaw for a while, and he just popped up, and they had a conversation. I forget where the conversation really went, but they had a conversation, and you know, he talks to Peggy, and oh, this is gonna be so all over the place because I'm kind of like foggy with the details. But basically, Peggy came into his office and was like, Ted wants me to do my own performance evaluation, and I want you to do it. I want a supervisor to review me, and he doesn't. He basically is asking her what the future, what her goals are, what she wants to do. She says she wants to be the first, female creative director, and she wants a big account, and she wants a catchphrase that lasts long, lasts a long time, and all of this. And she got upset because she felt like Don was shitting on all her ideas. That's not really what he was doing. He didn't really care so much about what she was saying, but he was trying to find something to put in his speech. So it is still kind of selfish asshole Don, but I don't think that he handled it in a way that Peggy should have reacted like that, but we still love Peggy. So let's get into Mathis. So, Mathis, hold on. So, Mathis and this other guy were presenting for Peter Pan peanut butter. I guess they were doing a Tinkerbell cookie, which is like a peanut butter cookie. And Mathis and the other guy were debating on what the tagline should be. And apparently in the actual meeting, the two guys were sort of fighting, and there was an F-bomb dropped and everything. And so Mathis came to Don Draper and was like, I don't know, how to handle this. The next meeting is coming, and, should I apologize? What should I do? And Don's like, don't apologize. Just try to make a joke to ease it over. Like, he was saying, one time I, came into a meeting or something and said, oh, you guys made an ass of yourself on the last meeting or something like that. He was like, so do something like that. Do a joke or whatever. So Mathis goes into the meeting, and he tells the exact same joke that Don told him to do. So I blame Mathis a little bit for that. You know, you should have come up with something creative, should have come up with something on your own. But after the meeting, he goes into Don's office and he's like, you know, that didn't work. And, you know, the only reason that, you know, you're able to do that is because you're attractive and charming, but you don't know shit. And I think didn't somebody else do that last season? Anyway, yeah, you're just a pretty boy, and something about that Lucky Strike dude who was hot. I'm sorry. But anyway, he talked about the Lucky Strike dude, and, you know, Sterling told me that, you know, the only reason they wanted you in the Lucky Strike meetings was so Lee could fantasize about you and jack off later or something like that. And he's like, oh, you're out of line. And anyway, he fired Mathis. And Mathis was like, yeah, I figured that's what was going to happen before I even came in here. But, you know, he just wanted to tell him a little something. But it was sweet because, all over the place review. It was sweet because when Don gave him the advice, and he was like, oh, you know, thank you. That's just what I needed. He walked out of the meeting. Don really did kind of have like this smile on his face. He felt proud of himself for, like, you know, imparting his wisdom on somebody and, you know, really helping somebody by doing that. So I noted that. So, you know, I feel like Don is feeling like maybe he needs to get more hands-on with his people, like Ted Shaw said. Anyway, the apartment got sold, the condo, the penthouse, or whatever you want to call it. It got sold, and I think that was all with Don, right? Did anything important really happen with him? No. So let's get into Joan, because I want to talk about the weirdness that was Betty and Glenn last. So Joan is in LA, and she's supposed to be like interviewing, you know, whatever. And so this guy comes in, Pike, Captain Pike from the Star Wars movie, who is also gorgeous. And, you know, he comes in and he's in the wrong area, and she, you know, gives him the rundown or whatever. And then it turns out that he's not who she thought he was, and he ask her to go to dinner with him. They go to dinner, they have sex. She lies, and she says that, you know, she does not have a kid. He asked her, you know, do you have mouths to feed or something? And she was like, no. Then later on, she gets back to New York. He calls her, and he says something about be honest with me or whatever. He thinks that, you know, she's a married woman and that they're having this tryst or whatever. And he's like, oh, so what time does he want you back? And, you know, he's just on this whole thing about he's totally charming and sweet and, you know, says all the right things. And then he's like, you know, I just want us to be honest. And then I think that's when she says, well, I have a little boy, a little 4-year-old. He's like, oh. So, you know, he's kind of, when she first tells him that she doesn't have any kids, he has this big smile. Then when she tells him he has a kid, then he, you know, tries to fake it, right? So they meet up for a little afternoon delight. And he tells her it's not going to work. Or okay, they go to the hotel. This is after dinner, I'm sorry. And she calls the babysitter and she's like, oh, you know, how much time can you stay there? Can we have till 2? Oh, I only have till midnight. And so he's hearing this whole thing, and then he's like, you know, I can't really do this with the baby or whatever. I'm sorry. And she's like, oh, I'm disappointed. And then then he comes to the office and he gives her flowers and says he apologizes. And it was nice seeing Pike, because I really like Pike in the Star Wars movies. So it was cool to see him. He's there, definitely handsome. He's hot for her. And, you know, we want Joan to win, but I just felt like the flip-flopping on the kid thing was not a good sign. That's a big red flag. And so I'm already over him. But I did want to say, like, Pike, and like you guys know, I love Henry Francis, and even Sterling, like really attractive guys. But I wonder, like, what they look like when they were younger, because are these those kind of guys that just get really, really, really handsome in the older they get? You know, like Richard Gere, I feel like he's the same way. The older he gets, the more handsome he is. So that's what I want to say about Pike, because it's kind of weird. He's blonde, he's skinny, he's, you know, Anglo. Why wouldn't we have seen him when he was young? You know, maybe he wasn't as good of an actor, but whatever. So yeah, that was Joan. I was, you know, that was a roller coaster of an arc, because, like I said, we want to see her win. So it was a nice high to see her meet this really nice guy that was really into her, who's, you know, financially stable and all this stuff. And you know, then it dipped, and we were supposed to be happy again when he said, "Oh, I'll accept you with your kid." But I just don't feel that doesn't satisfy me enough. I need Joan to. Yeah, I don't like the flip flopping. So anyway, let's get to Betty. So Sally is going on this 12. They're going to 12 different states. It's like a bus tour. I guess it's for the summer. And so she's preparing for it. And Glenn comes by. We all know Glenn. Glenn is Sally's friend from way back. And Glenn, he looked weird, but I think that he's going to grow into a very attractive dude. And I didn't think that when he was younger, but like his face is still, his body hasn't caught up with his face. So his body was like really skinny, and his head is like still big. It's tall, it's big, but it was kind of, you know, he's losing weight there, so it was kind of sucked in too. It was just weird, because I feel like the last time we saw him, he wasn't so skinny. But anyway, I think, you know, if he muscles up or whatever, he'll be a very attractive man. Anyway, Glenn comes in. I can't remember exactly what it was on the first or second season, but there was some weird, sort of inappropriate thing going on with Betty and Glenn. I forgot what it was. I think he touched her leg and she let him, or there was something weird that happened. But obviously those two have a connection, right? So he comes, he talks to Sally, and he tells her, you know, he's going to the army. He's going into the war. And Sally gets so super pissed, and she runs upstairs and stuff. And then he comes back, and it's just Betty there. And, you know, he basically tells her that the only reason he's really going into the army, because she was like, "Oh, I hope you're not doing this for me." He's like, "No, I'm going into the army because I flunked out of school, and you know, my stepfather was really, really upset about it, obviously. And as soon as I told him that I was going to enlist, my stepfather got really super happy. So I felt like I have to go now." And then there's this weird sort of, he leans in to go for a kiss, and she's just kind of like, "No." You know, there's something between them, and I don't really understand what it is. But I just have to say, like, I was just reading something online about a recap of this episode, and they were talking about how awkward it was, how awkward the thing between Glenn and Betty was. And, you know, in a way, I really, really did get it, because they have the history, and, you know, maybe they're like kindred spirits or whatever, and they understand each other like no other people understand each other. That's kind of the impression that I've always gotten between those two. So I got that, but I do think I kind of agree with what I read in the review, was that the Glenn actor isn't really all that great. He hasn't grown into a really, really great actor. And so maybe there was some nuance, something that, you know, a really good actor could have done to make us sort of make that seem less awkward, because it's not romantic. It's almost creepy, but it's not really, because, you know, they have the history. Yeah, I just feel like there's some kind of chemistry that's missing between those two that's needed for that relationship. And I also found Sally to be a little bit wooden in this episode. I liked when she called his house and was telling his mom, tell him I'm really, really sorry, and I want to miss him, and I want to see him before he leaves and all that stuff. I thought she was really good in that. But yeah, the scenes with Glenn just felt so weird. So maybe Glenn just isn't the right actor, but they chose him when he was young, so they can't get a new actor now. So I think that's pretty much all that happened in the episode. Please like this video, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll be back next week. We only got 3 more episodes left, y'all. Interesting. Bye.